Right, so Super Lucky's Tale is awful, but that's not my opinion, that's a quantifiable fact. What's worse, the console and controller suck, and this isn't even the first generation or series. I think this is an Xbox One S, so this is the better version. But despite that, it's not as bad as it seems, and I was able to get the remaining achievements in Super Lucky's Tale. This is how I did it. I'm Dark Lord Elliott. First, I had to take care of the lag. I disconnected the Xbox from the capture card, in my case an AverMedia GC573, also known as an LG 4K, an Elgato 4K60 knockoff. This was necessary because, with the console attached to the capture card, no matter what configuration I tried, I was unable to enable ALLM. So I cannot record with atrocious lag like I had last time, so I just didn't bother. No recording. With ALLM, the game played much better, but there was still perceivable lag. It's still not great, but it became passable over time. I'm honestly astonished that I was able to have gotten the Pixel Rider achievement with this horrendous lag on my system. Microsoft's bug fix should be days away, and I await the bounty for it. So with the lag sort of sorted, the only thing left was the bounce on the controller. Truthfully, I just learned to do less flicking and be more deliberate. The fact that I have to change my playstyle to accommodate a limitation of the controller or how it's perceived by the console is itself absurd. Microsoft's value can be expressed the same as the constant, ceaseless, unrelenting, unequivocal disappointment I feel whenever I think about it. Pi, but multiplied by about 1 trillion. Let that sink in. So with the lag in the controller sorted, or at least somewhat diminished, it's time to talk achievements. Achievements that I would consider super lucky that I'm even willing to get them. Really, I only had 3 left. The others would fall into place once I had the coins and was ready to spend them. I started with being Lady M without getting hit once. In actuality, this would be pretty easy in a competent game that the controller wasn't fighting me literally every step of the way, or if I could use the D-pad, but no. So here we are. Even with the lag significantly diminished, it still took around 15 tries over the course of probably an hour, usually for reasons well and truly outside of my control. Sometimes I would get hit by a projectile I couldn't see coming. Other times I had nowhere to go without taking a hit. Either way, I finally got that bastard achievement, leaving Wrigglemania without getting hit once, which was a bit harder. Beating Wrigglemania without getting hit was a bit harder. Wrigglemania was worse in the 3rd and 4th stages because it was entirely possible to just get plain and super unlucky. Accurate and ironic considering the game I'm playing. Over the course of probably 40 attempts spanning a few hours, I finally beat Wrigglemania without taking damage once, be it my fault or the game's. At least I didn't have to listen to Lady M attempt to sing or deal with the floor nonsense here, or worse, have to beat all the bosses in Guardian Trials without taking a hit each. I'll admit, given the potential, this was merciful. Next, the final frontier of the game and the reason most people would never play this trash again, getting 99,999 coins. So to get 100,000 coins, you effectively have to play the game 3, maybe 4 times, depending on how thorough you are on every level. Since I hate this game and never want to play it again, I want to minimize the time spending this as much as possible. I start with a recommendation some guy made on Reddit, where you go to Spookington and collect the gems there, then pause and respawn. It worked, and for an easy 200 coins for a couple minutes worth of playing the game, but I just wasn't feeling it. I found this method to be quite tedious and desperately wanted something more, fun. There's a level in Guardian Trials, top that to be specific, that would nut somewhere between 800 to 897 coins, and then the hub area would give you 125 that you can get there, then circle back around to top that. In total, that averages to just around 1,000 if you're lucky, so if played perfectly, with extremely good luck, you could get this achievement in under 100 playthroughs of this level. Maybe less, but almost certainly more. Of course, playing optimally, consistently, isn't possible, and it isn't quite that simple either. This is a time challenge level, which means that you're expected to be able to play this level pretty fast or risk dying. which sends you back to the last attained checkpoint after taking a life, just for good measure and to make sure you can't have any fun. And all your newly acquired coins from the previous checkpoint, gone. Bottom line, get good or don't play. Also, at the end of this stage, there's some glitch that happens every time where some of the gems will fall through the floor. Why? I don't know. But given that this game was released in 2018, it's 2026 now, that's almost 8 years that this has been left in the game, and this is even in a DLC. Playful! Get it together! This gem glitch is the main reason that there's such a discrepancy for the coin count being potentially 100 off from, and that's with collecting everything else. QA for playful must mean break time, because this is unacceptable. The final achievements were all to do with costumes, like buying all of them or playing a challenge wearing one specific one, so I didn't even bother with any of that, because when I had the coins, I'd just get them all. I did accidentally trigger the golem that insults you a bit earlier than I had meant to, but that's more a me thing, where I like to trigger things that I don't need for progression at the end of the game. I don't need this, and here's my proof, essentially. Especially for costumes, a useless part of any platforming game. Last was simply to watch the credits. Ever wonder who would willingly take credit for this trash? Well, not anymore. And see, that's the last thing I will ever see of this game. We leave this game now, not with a bang, but with a whimper. Such is such a simple, super lucky life, spare the death of execution, instead endlessly roaming the shadows of the internet, seeking validation and vindication, though none shall ever arrive. A purgatory that extends further than space, longer than time, and as meaningless as this game. And with that, we're done. 2000 Gamerscore, a useless number to me, and I never have to play this unrelenting garbage ever again. I do have new Super Lucky's Tale on my Steam account, but I don't think I'll be playing that this decade. Once a century seems too often. Anyway, with that said, we've now closed the book on Super Lucky's Tale, a game so creatively bankrupt even the story gave up after the first paragraph. I've never been more certain that I will not be revisiting a game in my life. Super Lucky's Tale is done, not in the sense there's nothing left for me to uncover, but in the sense that this game is completely and utterly bankrupt. I have spoken. Since I have no further plans to make videos on this subject again, I do want to cover off some thoughts I have on Lucky's Tale, be it the original, the remake, or the remake of the remake. Yes, there are actually 3 versions of this awful game. First, I understand the fact that the game is made for kids, and I'm not against that whatsoever, but this is equivalent to coddling a child, playing into childish tropes instead of helping a kid grow. This is like laughing at awful jokes that kids make, rather than helping them become better and more refined. This game is a sin against any competent parent at all. That said, I hope the developers get the help they clearly need. Though even with Microsoft's funding of this game, if $3 trillion can't help someone work out problems, I don't think anything possibly can. Until they find said help, the developers of this game should vow never to make another game again. The story of this game is non-existent, everything kind of happens, the gameplay is poor, clearly not playtested by any video game player, but the developers themselves. The stylization of this game is ugly, especially the 3D renders of most of the main characters, and the worlds feel lifeless and dull with literally nothing happening, outside of a few enemies you're forced to pounce on because the developers apparently forgot that you had a perfectly viable tail whip. This game is poor, and I stand by my previous rating. This game tried so hard to get a "You Tried" sticker, but giving this game even that would devalue anything given to it. This game from a company working directly for Microsoft is a pure disappointment and deserves castration. There should never be another Lucky game, and there's 3 too many now. Dark Lord Elliott, we're definitely done here, and for good this time. Tell me, did you think there was a joke? You were mistaken.